Okay, there's a lot of laws I talk about, and thank God I learned to ask the internet questions. These are some questions I ask. A lot of things I know about, but people talking about it and complaining about it on the internet. I try to teach people to do something about it using the law. Okay, so anyways, the landlord, I had this discussion with him, the landlord before. They all threatened to evict me, sue me. I said, go ahead, because they're not making any of the mandatory repairs. You want me to sign a lease? Make the mandatory repairs. You want to raise the rent? Make these repairs. Then we'll discuss the lease. Right now, I'm living with health hazards here. I'm living with dangers of electrical fire, water damage. Multiple leaks in the bathroom, different times, different months, different years, in the kitchen. Slapping on some paint ain't gonna do anything. So, anyways, I told the landlords, look it up. It's on the net. Landlord fixes everything. I told them, look, just type in landlord fixes everything. Landlords are generally responsible for maintaining safe, sanitary, and habitable environment. Black mold because the faucets are leaking and the hot water is coming, making it all humid, and no. And then the leaking in the ceiling, and then they finally replaced the ceiling in the bathroom, and they said, okay, now we're raising the rent. Tenants must report these issues. I got them on video. Habitable standards. Landlords must ensure that the unit has working plumbing, hot water, functioning heating. They're messing with the heating. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's too freaking hot in here. And I keep telling them, quit messing with that. It's not the heating system, it's the doors. They replaced the windows because they were old and dilapidated and weren't holding back the elements, but they didn't do the doors. The doors are warped, the frames are warped, they're not holding back the elements as they should be. So instead of replacing the doors, because they said they don't have money for that, well, turn up I don't know, they're idiots. They keep doing everything and anything, and, to replace it, they spent more, they've been working on that for, I don't know, the heating for 5-6 years. If they would just stop and listen to the tenants. They're evicting 5 other tenants from this building for refusing to I don't know if they're refusing to pay the rent or the increase or sign a lease until these repairs are made. We got shit coming out of the faucets, black stuff. I got videos of that. But anyways, he said he didn't have to do that, so look it up. It's on the net. And so anyways, I told him not doing it, that's breaking the law. Okay. And let's see, what else did I? Where is it? Oh, does a lawyer have to inform a client that they are breaking the law? I know that they do, but see, it was just a some. I asked the internet questions, a lot of simple questions, and it's actually you people asking this on social media. So before, people used to tell me, "Give me a link, give me a link." I didn't know what they meant, so I would put their question in the search engine, and guess what it did? Yes, a lawyer has an ethical duty to inform a client that their planned or ongoing actions are breaking the law and to advise them to stop. While attorney-client confidentiality protects past actions, lawyers must refuse to insist or must withdraw from representing with a client in a criminal or fraudulent conduct. So this guy had his lawyer called me, and when I tried discussing the laws with this guy and the laws that his client are breaking, and he has to fix this, and all he could do is deflect by saying the landlord has every right to raise the rent. I said, not if he's not fixing anything. And he tried to give me his version of the law, and I wasn't going to get into the letter of the law. But anyways, he started emailing instead of texting me. I'm quite sure because he thought I was probably doing the same thing he was, recording the phone call. But my mistake was I didn't, for legal purposes. I might when you call and it says leave a message, and any message you leave I will use for legal and doxing purposes. So that's an advance notice. Okay, preventing future harm. Lawyers are permitted in some jurisdictions required to reveal confidential information to prevent a client from committing a crime that is likely to result in imminent death, substantial bodily harm, or significant financial injury. All right, so right now they're taking me to court. He thought I was going to get a lawyer, and I was going to have to spend some money to get a lawyer to bring up any of these issues, which they don't, because if they did, this is happening across the United States. What's happening to me and these people here, it's happening across the United States. So I'm going to make these issues relevant. And, when I go to court, I'm going to use the rules and the codes. I'm going to take them. I went and had copies made. I had to put in binders and the clear front covers. And I'm going to highlight everything and go in there and present my case and using laws, okay? So preventing future harm. Did he tell the lawyer, when he started emailing me, he wanted to know, he told me, I'll withdraw the eviction if you just give me a notice when you're leaving. I'll give you 90 days, cash for keys. I didn't know what that was. And he yelled at me. You know what that is? No. That's where we give you cash to help you move. How much you want? $1,000? I said, I don't know. I said, I haven't found a place yet. Well, how long is it going to take you? Can you give me a time? I said, no, I can't, And so finally came an email. I told him, I can't give you a time or a date, but as soon as I find out, you'll be the first to know. You can hold me to the letter of the law on that. And I haven't heard from him since. That's not quoting the email word for word to the letter as required by the law. So that's just a rough estimation as to what I told them in ending the email, and I haven't heard back from them. So I'm going to make these issues relevant. I'm going to say a lot of quiet parts out loud in court. Withdrawal representation of a client insists on violating the law. The lawyer must withdraw from representation to avoid assisting in a criminal act. Perjury. If a client commits perjury, the lawyer must take immediate remedial measures, which include advising the client to correct the record or withdrawing. They said they have a lease from me that I signed in 2023. I haven't signed a lease since they sold the building the first time after I moved in here. They've had this is the fourth person that I've had to deal with giving the rent to since I moved in here. And what they're doing is, the last landlady explained to me, is this is what they do. They buy a building, they raise the rent. Keep the building for a couple of years, a few years at the most, and then they sell it and then buy another building and raise the rent. And they don't fix shit. When I told her about fixing stuff here, I ain't got time. I ain't got money for that. You know how much that is? Because her plumber, or whoever she sent, stopped. They were complaining about my water usage. But it's because the faucet in the tub didn't stop running, the sink faucet didn't stop running, and it was the hot water. It was consistently running, and they're paying for the hot water and some of the heat, as they're claiming. But I get an electric bill. And a pretty substantial electric bill for what? I use 40-watt light bulbs. One person. Got an electric stove, but I barely use that. I have an air fryer, a microwave, a coffee pot, and most of the time I drink it's coffee, so I use a stove to heat hot water. So I shouldn't really have that, substantial, electric bill if they are paying for the heating. And they're playing with the heating, making it hotter in here, and depending how cold it is outside, and here, the weather can drop or rise pretty quickly, and it's soon to rise, go up to 70, so if the heat's still working as it is, it's going to be hotter in here than it is outside, Because right now it's I don't have the thermostat. I have it set all the way down, so it shouldn't be kicked down. But the thermostat reads 78 degrees. And I have one by the door that says 81 degrees. Indoor humidity 16, temperature 81. But I keep fans going all the time to make it easier to breathe in here, because when that heat gets too high, I already told the landlord I can't handle it. He said water stains on the ceiling was, I think it's because of your cooking. I said, shut up, you weren't here. I said, you could see I tried to wipe the water with a sponge mop. It looked ridiculous. But anyways, so here it is. The lawyer is not talking and telling his client, hey, you know, you not doing this, that's against the law. Look at this guy's complaining, you know, he's worried about electrical fires. And not just me, a lot of these people here have kids, and I don't see why they're renting single bedroom apartments to families with kids, and that's ridiculous. Okay, so, but, okay, I'm in death. I'm handicapped. If the fire breaks out, there's no way I'm gonna be able to get out of here quick, fast enough. Hurry. You know, the water leaks. I slipped and fell in the water a couple of times, hurt myself. I didn't go to the hospital, but I couldn't get up. Now I have that life alert. So if I fall and can't get up, they'll be on it. Significant financial injury. You know, my electric bill keeps going up. I mean, granted, it's happening, but I'm talking about because of the lack of, you know, there's a door. It's just not doing what it's supposed to. And I told that to the second landlord, the third landlord. This is the fourth one, and he told me I don't know what I'm talking about. When I talked about, are they done? When are they going to finish replacing the plumbing? The other guy said the plumbing is as old as the building. It's the infrastructure of the building. It's falling apart. And you know, not just the plumbing for the water, the intake into the building. He said, but the outtake, you know, for the sewage. So there's a whole lot of stuff built up, and they just got to redo it. This is expensive, so it's going to take some time. And that's why the water keeps backing up in the drains, and the black mold just keeps growing in my bathroom. It grows and it comes out of the tub the fastest in the sink when it was leaking, but right now it's coming up through the drains. But when I tried to talk to the lawyer about this, he said he didn't have to hear about it. No, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. So here these two knuckleheads are conspiring to cause me financial damage to hide the potential bodily harm living here could cause me this place. You know, I know I got real sick because of that black mold. I went to the doctor and they didn't give me too much information about this. And you know, I asked a lot of questions and they just gave me prescriptions, or tried to. And I don't like doing prescriptions, and I thought that's what you came here for. But anyways, so two people conspiring, you know, to break the law, you know. You see, because we have rights, you know, to clean water. Let's see. The Clean Water Act is a primary U.S. federal law regulating water pollution, enacted in 1972 to restore and maintain the chemical, physical, and biological integrity of the nation's water. It makes it unlawful to discharge pollutants from a point source into navigable waters. Okay, but so when those waters hit here, you know, to the building, yes, the government has to make sure we get clean water to this building. But once it reaches his building, it's the landlord's obligation. And he says it's not. So I don't know what, and I guess he thought because, of my heritage, my Mexican descent, that I didn't understand his English, so he started speaking to me in Spanish. And I told him, I only speak English. Why do you speak? And I started yelling at him. And he said, I speak a lot of languages. You know what? Maybe he does. My question is, does he understand any of them? Because apparently he doesn't understand English. English is not his first language. I have no problem with that. But don't talk to me like I don't know the law. And I give you easy answers there on the internet, just like I give everybody else. That's what my page, Legal Reform, is all about. Teaching people laws that they were unaware of, that they could use against anybody, anywhere, in any court of law. And that starts with the rules of professional conduct and the code of judicial conduct. Any lawyer or judge's failure to live up to that is the deprivation of rights. That's misconduct if they don't do any of that, and reporting misconduct is mandatory. If nobody reports that, it creates conspiracy, and legally it's called a conspiracy against rights under the color of law, in which is, I could state that law is which the landlord and the lawyer are doing. Conspiracy against rights under the color of law is causing me health issues. It's, this is definitely a fire hazard here. There's so many water leaks. The plumbing has to definitely have to do something about the wiring here. That's antiquated. Water poured down, was dripping off the light in the kitchen light fixture. I didn't have the fan on, but it had on this like bug light with a little bug zapper underneath, and burned that thing out. I'm like, what the hell? And the kitchen light was flickering. One time things went a little crazy. I went to heat up some water on the stove, make an instant cup of coffee. It wouldn't go on. I went over and started flipping switches in the circuit breaker, and there was sparks behind there. I jumped the hell back, couldn't have no coffee, hot coffee. Good thing the electric was still on for the coffee pot. So I made that kind of coffee, and that landlord told me to call the electric company. That's them. Yeah, there were problems in the neighborhood, but not when that happened. And I have texts and emails from these people, and I offered it to the lawyer. I tried to. We were on the phone twice for 10 minutes or more on each phone call. And the first one, all he did was laugh at me. Okay, but see, this is a lot of information. I'm going to take the rules of professional conduct, the code of judicial conduct, and I put in for a jury trial, and I let them know. I had to send them a form. Before it was easy. You go to the court, you file for an appearance, and it asks you if you want a bench trial or a jury trial. It said there on that same form, and I put bench trial. And then I asked for a fee waiver, or at that time it was waiver of fees or fee waiver. But I asked for a fee waiver. They gave it to me. I filled it out so I didn't have to pay for the costs of the court or the jury. But see, the judge and the other lawyer didn't know that until the judge says, you want to take this to trial? Okay. And the court reporter, hey, Your Honor, he asked for a jury trial. Right away, the lawyer jumped on his phone, called his client, says, hey, he asked for a jury trial, and apparently he has a fee waiver. So we got to pay for the jury, we got to pay for the costs of, bringing the court, and he was supposed to remove. I was getting evicted because I was moving. I was looking for an apartment to move close to my doctor's office so I can get both my knees operated on. And they didn't like me leaving until I finished, as they said, making repairs. It wasn't repairs, it was remodeling. And the repairs that were needed they want to do because that costs money. But it's crazy how landlords will screw you over and how their lawyers will assist them. That creates a conspiracy against rights under the color of law, which is against federal law. There are penalties for that. So that's what I'm going to mention to the judge. Conspiracy against rights under the color of law. A serious federal felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison or up to life imprisonment, death if injuries or death result. Wow. And see, they're putting through, and disclosure is mandatory, not just in a court of law. So that's what I'm going to tell the judge, hey, I offer disclosure to him. I'm offering it to you. And according to the Code of Judicial Conduct, you are to apply the rules and the codes in every court of law and any other applicable law. This is an applicable law. This is federal law. And no law can overwrite federal law. Any law. And this is my constitutional right. So remember, any law repugnant to the United States Constitution is null and void. You can't stop this. You can't stop this. Penalties include fines and if committed by a public official, 4-level increase in the offense level under sentencing guidelines. Whoa, a 4-level increase in the offense level under the sentencing guideline. Damn. Base penalty, the least, up to 10 years imprisonment, fines, or both for conspiracy to injure, press, threaten, or intimidate any person and the free exercise of constitutional rights. Damn, somebody in trouble. Because I'm going to talk. I like to talk. And when but I know a lot of laws. See, so it's easy to use them once you know what they are. And I show you a whole bunch of them. And if you go through all my videos, you'll see I just read nothing but laws to you. I explain to you the letter of the law, which is a mandate in interpreting the law, which means everything you see here has to be done word for word to the letter. Violating the letter of the law has its penalties. Removal from public service, incarceration, fines. And same here. Death if injuries of death result. Same penalties for violating the letter of the law. So there's a whole bunch of laws that can and will be broken if you don't know what they are. I love that part, though. Sentencing guidelines. Public officials, such as police officers, convicted of these crimes face a 4-level sentencing increase. Because that, they're supposed to be held to a higher standard, right? So, whatever you have to face for breaking these laws as a citizen, they have to face quadruple, 4 times. So I'm going to hold the judge to that oath. The penalties are for violating the oath alone. So, that's where I always start. Violating the oath. And then everything that's required for them to do. What the oath requires them to do. Okay, so I'm throwing you a lot of these legal requirements of the legal system. Hey, I didn't go to law school, all right? People have a big problem with that, But growing up, I was called a nerd, a geek. I loved books. Books were my best friends. For a long time, they were my only friends. And it wasn't because I was antisocial. It's just that, my joy, my thoughts, where I wanted to go in life. Uh, it didn't line up with what they were doing. And I liked reading. I liked books. My sister taught me to read before I started school, and I just never stopped reading. Read everything I could get my hands on. Remember, conspiracy charges do not require the completion of the underlying crime, only that an overt act was taken to furtherance of a conspiracy. And it always starts with the lawyers not abiding by the rules of professional conduct. And if you bring it up to the judge, hey, look at here, and the judge is going to have to say, okay, according to the Code of Judicial Conduct, that's misconduct, so I have to report you, and you and your client, on Karen calls. But anyways, seriously, who lives up to the oath? Who lives up to the oath? That's a question you're going to have to ask every public servant. Remind them the penalties for violating that oath. Look up the oath. Read it to them. And then read penalties for violating that oath. Okay. Remember, just as I took the Pledge of Allegiance, they took the oath. Legally, I am not required to live up to that Pledge of Allegiance, but I do wholeheartedly, willingly, wantonly. But they took the oath, so they should be doing that because it's mandated. It's the law. The oath is the law. That's why there's penalties for violating the oath. Conspiracy against rights, an agreement between two or more people to interfere with someone's constitutional rights. All it takes is two people, y'all. And you have all kinds of people running around the country depriving you of your rights. And remember, since they are public officials, such as police officers, lawyers are all public servants. No matter who they work for, they are public servants and always required to do what's in the public interest, not self-interest of the bar, meaning for themselves, not parochial interest, not set forth for some religion, but they're required to do what's in the public interest. Okay, so yeah, no matter who they work for, they're public officials. Convicted of these crimes face a 4-level sentencing increase. Look at that right here. Okay, people, just giving you a whole lot to look up. Conspiracy grind. See, if two or more people conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district, free exercise of enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by Constitution or laws of the United States, or because of his having so exercised. So there's a lot, there's a lot for you. But some people I was talking to didn't believe me about this conspiracy against rights under the color of law and where you can use it. And it's really hard to explain to somebody who's dealing with only one issue in court that no matter what court you go into, there's always a conspiracy against rights under the color of law, because no judge is abiding by the Code of Judicial Conduct, no lawyers abiding by the rules of professional conduct. I mean, these are the legal obligations of all attorneys and lawyers in a court of law. They took the oath to do that. Crazy world, right? Crazy world. But when you know, you know. Reach to succeed, my friends. You know, I ain't got nothing but love for you, you know. Granted, you know, people, when I was younger, used to criticize me and laugh at me because I was pretty young when I put this together, you know. By the time I started talking about a whole lot of this stuff, you know, I got into it heavy. I started throwing stuff at court 79, and then in 80, a little bit in 80, 81, not too much, but I think I started going at 82, 83, and then I let personal relationships get involved, and then I slowed down quite a bit, but I'm back at it. I've been threatened, I've been left for dead. Hey, you know, but, you know, sometimes serving the greater good, you know, sometimes the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. You know, one of my greatest inspirations gave it all, gave his everything. You know, and the needs of the many. He gave his life for that. So many people have given their life for this thing we know today, now known as the rule of law. The laws apply equally to everyone. And that's what I'm doing, trying to make all laws matter in a nation of laws. All laws matter. And I'm going to do my best to see to it that everybody faces the penalties